Anthony Hopkins. That's who I'm going to read today. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. I'm going to share my screen. Beat around the bush this morning. All right. Here we are. This is kind of a challenging chart to read, I'll be honest, but I wanted to do it anyway. I thought he's pretty interesting, and he's got an interesting chart. Capricorn ascendant, Sun, Mercury, Venus in Capricorn. And right off the bat, it doesn't look like, Saturn's all the way at the end of Pisces in the second house. So we do see some second house activation here, and first house and 12th house, right? So that's all good. We want the first house because the first house is like the person. It's their character, their body, their self. We want that very well charged, and we got 3 planets that arguably in the 12th house, which is okay, but it's leading into the first house, especially being in the same sign as the ascendant. 12th house is also important for actors, right? 12th house is a house of creativity, house of film, photography, cinema, imagination, fantasy, delusion, all those sort of things. Anything behind the camera is very much related to the 12th house. Moon is also 12th. Moon is, I guess, 11th house by quadrant, 12th house by sign, whole sign. But a lot of 12th house, first house activity, and that is flowing into the ascendant. It's a little bit like a stream or a river. You can see how the energy is flowing towards the ascendant here. And then we have Jupiter out of sign from the ascendant in Aquarius, but in the first house, well in the first house. Jupiter making him a very big character. It's not super dignified. However, it is trading signs with Saturn. Jupiter in Saturn's sign in Aquarius, and Saturn in Jupiter's sign in Pisces. So then we're getting second and first house trading places, trading energies, which is good. We often see strong second house as well in actors, in any like singers, actors, speakers, teachers, things like that. Anyone who's using their voice professionally, you'll see strong second house activation. It's the second lord in the first house, first lord in the second house, first and second house trading places, right? But also Jupiter is in esoteric astrology, it rules Aquarius. I know it's different rulership, but that is interesting. So there is some affinity there, however you take that. Right. What else? Venus is gaining some dignity from Saturn because Venus is exalted in Pisces, where Mars and Saturn are, and Venus is in Saturn's sign Capricorn. Right. So there's some trade-off here, even though by degree they're not, well, by degree they're square. So that's actually the connection. Just 1 degree off square. And so that is a difficult aspect. However, Venus is in the superior position, and Saturn is receiving Venus. So I think it's okay. He is a kind of tense character. He has a lot of tensities going on, intensities, if you will. But so this Venus is getting a lot of strength from Saturn. Yeah, and then there's obviously that Saturn is sextiling the ascendant more by degree and sign. And then Mars sextiling Mercury and the Sun. Contacts between the Sun and Mars are quite good. Also, this is the sign of Mars exaltation, so that strengthens Mars. Mars ruling the MC, so his career, his public image. It's getting strengthened there. Yeah, because so the sun is exalted in the sign of Mars, Aries. So contacts between the sun and Mars are good. The moon is 11th, 12th house, depending on how you look at it. 11th house quadrant, 12th house, whole sign house, in Jupiter's sign. Not much of a contact there with Jupiter. I mean, sextile by sign, but not by degree. Moon is opposite Chiron in Gemini. In the 5th quadrant, 6th whole sign house. So 5th, 6th. If it's bringing in 6th house, plus it's ruling the 6th house cusp, quadrant cusp, opposite Chiron, that is going to influence his moon, especially when he's younger, in a difficult way. It's going to make him feel like an outsider, feel different. He did, just briefly reading Wikipedia's article about him, he said he felt stupid when he was young. He's very artistic, and he did make music throughout his life, but he wasn't a good student, and he wasn't an easy learner, and he was a bit, yeah, he had issues. Later, he was diagnosed with Asperger's, just put it very lightly, and he did have issues with drugs and alcohol. Well, I don't know, drugs, alcohol, but he quit that. So there's some issues here, but I don't think it's major. But Chiron opposite the moon is going to show some difficulties with mental issues. It's not going to show up in his outer personality, but he's going to feel it inside. Some tension, some unease, some difficulty, associating with people. That's the Asperger's, turning to drugs and alcohol, things like that. Uranus is exactly trine the sun, also Mars and Venus less so, but it is in the sign of Venus. Venus is the sign of Taurus, so that's making this Uranus quite a bit stronger and giving his personality a very unique quality, unique electric Uranian quality because of the trine here, giving all these planets that are Uranian vibe, which just adds to his character. He's just full of character, right? It is in the 3rd house. 2, 3, 4. 5th whole sign house, but because the quadrants are so, he was born in Wales, so it's pretty far north, but 3rd house by quadrant, 5th house by whole sign house. Either way, both excellent for acting. 3rd house is expression. 5th house is creativity. Leo's original house, like fun and games and being on stage and, confidence and things like that. Not great in Taurus, but because of the contact from Venus, so it is doing quite well, I think. And then there's this unique, I forget what this shape is called, but I threw in Vesta here because it fit in so well. Vesta opposite Uranus, trine Mars, and Mars is sign of Scorpio. So now there's reception here between Vesta and Mars, and then Uranus and the sun, and then the sextile between Vesta and the sun. And the reason it makes sense is because, and it's in the 11th whole sign house, approaching the MC, so but 9th by quadrant. But anyway, Vesta is a asteroid of commitment. It shows dedication and commitment. And one of the things that I read about him is that he's extremely committed to a role. Once he commits to a role, he will go over the lines again and again and again until it's completely natural. And that's that Vesta here. Really incorporating well with the Sun, the Mars, the Uranus. Mars ruling his MC, so his career, his public perception in the second house of speech, right? And then there's this Pluto, 29 degrees, very unstable, by the way. Mars also, and it's trine Mars, exactly trine Mars. Sorry, Saturn. Forgive me, sometimes I make stupid mistakes just because I'm just being in the moment. I'm just, anyway. Saturn, trine Saturn. He's known for, I mean, he's obviously known for being, his most famous role was the Silence of the Lambs, where he plays the, psycho killer. That's Pluto in the seventh house. He says he's always been known to be able to scare people. Okay, that's Pluto, clearly in the seventh house. Probably even more so on this 29th anaretic degree because it makes planets unstable. And then trine Saturn, which is his ascendant lord, really gives a lot of force behind it. It brings it into his ascendant, right? It's connecting it to his ascendant. So his ascendant, it's also opposite the ascendant. So it's making him, and in the seventh house, that shows like ability to, in relation to others. The seventh house, whatever is in the seventh house, is always having to do with others. So he's like, when he's on his own, he's not going to be scary. But whenever he's like relating to other people, then he has this Plutonian influence that is bringing in the ascendant and all these planets as well in the first house. So it's bringing in a lot of energy into this Pluto, right? Even the moon, it's in Cancer, sign of Cancer, and they're not making much of an aspect, somewhat of an inconjunct, but by 5 degrees. But anyway, yeah, I mean, that's Pluto. Pluto is very heavy, very scary, especially any water sign. Obviously, it rules, co-rules Scorpio, but in Cancer, it's still going to be dark, heavy, scary, right? And then, backed up by the trine from Saturn and Pisces, more water, right? And then Mars is here too, and Pisces, probably just further adding to that. So it's trine by sign, not by degree with Mars. But yeah, South Node is in Gemini, and that's the fourth house by quadrant. Fifth sign. Sixth whole sign. Sixth whole sign. But anyway, regardless, South Node in Gemini is going to naturally make him very expressive, right? Because Gemini rules expression and the intellect. Like, Taurus rules the voice, Gemini rules the expression, the communication. So it's making him very expressive, South Node in Gemini. And then North Node in Sagittarius, it's in the 10th house quadrant. So then he's becoming very career oriented in groups and networks because it's involving 11th whole sign house. So, popularity, he's becoming very popular. 11th house is the house of popularity because it's groups and networks. So like, within a certain field, them becoming very, popular. What else? Neptune, I guess 8th quadrant in Virgo, but 9th whole sign house. Let's see, is it making much connection? 21 degrees. I mean, it's trine the ascendant. So Neptune obviously ruling Pisces, creativity, imagination, things like that. Trying the ascendant is going to be very good, regardless of what sign it's in. I mean, because these are both earth signs, so obviously it would have to be for trine. Not making much of an aspect to Mercury by degree. It's a wide opposition to Saturn, but you know, with the Mars and Saturn in Pisces, it's still, you know, there's that light connection there, medium to light connection to Pisces, which is good. So yeah. I mean, this is definitely one of the more unique charts out there that's not as obvious on first sight as to where his strengths are, why he is the way he is. But I think it becomes pretty obvious that his ascendant, his first house and 12th house gain a lot of strength, and second house as well. You know, and then third, fifth, things like that, and then seventh, pulling in the first again. So, and then 10th. Look at do this. Well, nothing is overly sticking out here. Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde would be point to the fact that he goes over his lines again and again and again, and that he had difficulty learning as a child. All the outer planets are retrograde. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. Because they're outer planets, they're not very personal. I have my outer planets retrograde too. Anyway, I think that's it for Anthony Hopkins. Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's interesting, and I think Anthony Hopkins is a great actor. So that's it for now, guys. You want to book a reading? Go to my website, macroastrology.com, or just email me directly at macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.